Here we go. Panel, my exciting panel. I'm so thrilled to have experts in each of their fields. Come on up and let's give them a hand. So what I'm going to do is first we're going to have them each give like a minute introduction so you understand why they're experts and why I invited them to be here. So Laura, I'll let you start.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Laura Meritz. I am a financial advisor and a certified financial planner. I work for a wealth management firm called Esperient. I help individuals to navigate the complexities of making financial decisions and to plan for either retirement or to help their money to last through retirement.
Hi. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, there we go. I'm also Laura. Not to confuse you. Laura M, Laura B. No, Laura Bassett. I am a licensed professional fiduciary. A lot of people don't know what that is. Hopefully by the end of the seminar today, you will know what that means. I've been licensed by the state of California since 2011. I have a background in accounting and real estate, and I basically help people either do trust administration once they've passed away or act as their power of attorney while they're still living, helping make decisions, medical decisions, paying bills, things like that. So been doing this for a while. My mom was my mentor. She did it for 25 years and then was an attorney beyond that for many, many years. So that's my background, born and raised in Oceanside. So I'm in the North County for the long haul.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marta Hoyt. I work with Longbridge Financial. I specialize in reverse mortgage loans, and I've been doing so for about 15 years. I've lived in the community here for about 35 years as well. And what I do is help senior homeowners access some of the equity in their homes to live a better life in retirement. It's something I love to do. It's something that I hope to give you a little bit more education about today. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get started, and Laura did laughingly said that we've been calling them Laura M and Laura B, so I will refer to them that way. So Laura M, we're going to start with you. So what are some of the most common concerns people have about outliving their money?
I guess I could probably pass the mic around the room to hear what your concerns are, but some of the concerns that we hear about through our clients and through other retirees include, have I planned adequately? There are concerns about whether investments and savings will help retirees to sustain their living expenses and long-term needs. Longevity risk is definitely a concern. We plan to retire, we plan to have our resources last to a certain age, but if we outlive those resources, that's definitely a concern. We hear concerns about the impact of unexpected expenses, expenses such as long-term care, medical emergencies, even significant home repairs that come up unexpectedly can definitely deplete financial resources and put a strain on you for the long term. Other concerns that we hear about are the challenges of rising costs. We live in an inflationary society, and inflation does erode away fixed savings, which really makes it harder to pay for your day-to-day expenses and plan accordingly. And then there's also concern about just income stability. Not everybody has a fixed income in retirement, like a pension. So the concern about, will that income that comes in fluctuate? And if so, how are we going to budget for those everyday expenses? If your investments or if your income is solely reliant on what you have saved in retirement accounts, market volatility is a concern. If we head into an economic downturn, that could definitely shrink your retirement accounts, and that is definitely a concern because one worries then that you won't have enough finances to help you sustain your retirement years.
So what financial challenges do older adults often encounter in retirement, and what strategies can help minimize and sustain their income over a longer lifespan?
I think one of the main challenges would be unexpected or if you underestimate the cost of healthcare and long-term care. I think many retirees enter retirement thinking that Medicare will cover all medical expenses, and as we know, that's not the case. Also with long-term care, which covers nursing homes or covers in-home aids, it can be very costly and can quickly deplete your savings. And if you haven't planned accordingly, that could be a huge financial challenge. Another common challenge that we encounter is retirees that enter retirement and they don't adjust their investment strategy. So if you have money invested in a retirement account or an investment account, it's advisable to change your strategy to a more balanced strategy, so a combination of bonds and stocks. We often see retirees with a very aggressive or growth-oriented investment strategy with these accounts. That comes with a lot of risk. If we look at this year where we had a very volatile first 6 months, when the stock market tanked, a number of individuals that are heavily invested in stocks that would have been a big concern. So the guidance is to really rebalance your investment strategy more towards income producing bonds and dividend paying stocks. So that's a big one. Another challenge I would say is failure to or a lack of estate planning. Entering retirement, retirees might delay or neglect to create estate planning documents. So they neglect to create a will, create healthcare directives, and to appoint powers of attorney. This is definitely problematic and can cause a lot of, I'd say, stress and anxiety and possibly expensive legal hurdles for family members to have to take care of. Your estate, if you do happen to pass or if you become incapacitated and your estate planning documents aren't in place. So just simply creating your estate plan so that it matches your wishes can secure your assets and also just provide you peace of mind, as well as your family peace of mind. I guess also entering retirement with high debt, so high credit card debt, personal loans, as well as a mortgage. Those are areas that can cause financial challenges. So just being able to manage the debt that you have or try eliminate it completely can really help to stretch your resources through your retirement. Care for loved ones. That is definitely a financial challenge. I'm sure there's a number of you in this room that this relates to, where you are caring for your adult children, providing financial assistance potentially to grandchildren, and often to your own detriment. So this is where you sacrifice your own financial needs for your family, and it's completely understandable why you would do that. But definitely take stock of your financial situation to make sure that it doesn't jeopardize the resources that you have that will hopefully stretch out through your retirement. And then lastly, I'm sure there's many other items I could cover, but one thing that we notice is that retirees just don't ask for help. Entering retirement, a lot of retirees will choose to manage their own finances. It's simply reaching out to a trusted financial advisor, for example, just for an initial consultation, can really help you to avoid costly mistakes, whether it's tax planning, estate planning. So that is definitely something to consider. And it'll just also give you more confidence about your financial security if you have somebody as a soundboard to discuss things with.
If someone feels late to planning or is living mostly on Social Security, are there still some meaningful steps they can take to improve their financial situation?
Definitely. It's never too late to address your finances and take charge of your personal finances. So in addition to some of those points that I've just covered, something as simple as creating a budget for yourself can really help you to identify what income you have and what you're spending your money on. It's so crazy I ask around, like, what have you spent this month? And, you might come up with an estimated amount. But when you actually do an itemized expense account, it's amazing where money goes. So if you understand what your fixed expenses are, those non-discretionary, non-negotiable items, what money you need to pay for food, to pay for transport, your medication, your housing. Those are non-negotiables. But we also spend money on discretionary items. So those I want to have rather than I need to have items. So if you can identify what those items are, those are the items at a pinch that you can really reduce day to day, month to month. Grabbing that Starbucks coffee, every other day. Those expenses add up. Another way to, if you're thinking about how to produce an additional income flow, the thought of possibly getting a supplemental income. A lot of us have hobbies and passions and interests and areas of expertise. So if you are in need of additional income and you can't rely on your retirement accounts or Social Security, that is a consideration to potentially get paid for a hobby or get paid for tutoring or counseling. Another area that's quite expensive that could be adjusted is housing. Housing is one of our biggest expenses. In retirement, there's definitely an opportunity to downsize. There are options to move into shared housing. There's other senior living options available. Christy's obviously an expert in this area, so if it's something that you are considering, I definitely recommend speaking to Christy about this. And then if you do own your home, you have equity in your home, and there is consideration to take out a reverse mortgage, which Marta will be talking about. And then just, ask for help if you need it. There are many community resources and government assistance programs that are available. So definitely do your research. And again, you have a lot of resources in this room, Christy and others that have spoken today that can provide additional assistance.
So what should people understand about required minimum distributions? We've heard them called RMDs. And how can they plan ahead to avoid surprises?
So many of you in this room might be taking a required minimum distribution. In a nutshell, if you have contributed to an individual retirement account or an IRA, or an employer-sponsored retirement account, such as a 401k, a 457, 403b, you have put in money that was not taxed, and that money grows tax deferred. So there comes a point in time when the IRS is like, okay, you need to start paying taxes on these savings. And that is where they mandate that you take a required minimum distribution from your retirement accounts. So currently, if you are 73 or older, you are required to take distributions from your retirement accounts. How that amount is calculated is dependent on the balance of your account at the end of the previous calendar year, so 12/31/2024, and a life expectancy factor. So if you turn 73 this year, your life expectancy factor is 26.5. So you would take your account balance from last year and divide that by 26.5, and that is how you determine your required minimum distribution for this year. You have until December 31st of the current calendar year to take that RMD. If, however, you turn 73 this year, you have an exception. You can take your first distribution next year. So you can delay your first distribution and start taking it next year, but you have to take it by April 15th of 2026. However, if you choose to delay taking your 2025 distribution to next year, remember this is only for people that have turned 73 this year, you are still required to take your 2026 distribution by the end of 2026. So you might take 2 distributions in 1 year. So that's something to be cognizant of, because taking a distribution could impact your taxes. Your required minimum distributions are taxed as ordinary income. You haven't paid taxes on what you put into that account, so now you have to pay tax on the amount that you take out. And so that's where, if you are taking an RMD, it could actually impact your Social Security, how much of your Social Security is taxed, and it also might increase your Medicaid costs. So these are things just to factor in if and when you start taking an RMD. If you and your spouse both have an individual retirement account or separate retirement accounts, and you are both taking RMDs, you can't combine the amount that you're both supposed to take and just draw it out of one of your retirement accounts. Because the IRS will deem that your spouse hasn't taken their RMD because no money has come out of that account, and then your spouse will be penalized. And it's a hefty penalty. Any amount that you don't take, that you are required to take, will get a 25% penalty. So make sure that you take your RMDs, make sure that you plan accordingly. You can always take more than that minimum amount, but you can never take less. Well, I mean, you could take less, but then you're going to pay penalties for not taking it. So just be cognizant of that. The one IRA, a Roth IRA, is the one account that you don't need to take an RMD. That's an account that you've put money in after tax, and it can grow tax-free. Withdrawals are tax-free. It's a great savings vehicle, great for you to use if you need to, or it's a great account for you to pass on to your heirs because they won't pay taxes on that money either when they inherit and withdraw from it. And then lastly, for those that are charitably inclined, using your IRA and your RMD is a great charitable vehicle. If you donate to a charity directly from your IRA account, starting from age 70 and a half and older, the money that you donate will not be taxed. So if you use your required minimum distribution, if it was $2,000 and you choose to donate $1,000 to charity directly, it has to be a qualified charity, that $1,000 won't get taxed. It reduces the RMD that you are required to take, so you'll only pay taxes on $1,000.
So, you say you have a 401k, a SEP, an IRA. Do you have to take RMDs out of each of those then?
So you'd have to take an individual RMD out of the 401k. For your IRAs, each might have its own RMD or will have its own RMD, but because an IRA is a like account, you can combine those two RMDs and take it out of one of your IRA accounts, but it's yours as long as it's not your spouse's.
Thank you. Can you explain how annuities work and what people should consider before including them in their retirement plan?
Sure. So an annuity is basically an insurance product that pays you an income stream. You pay an insurance agent an amount of money. It could be in a lump sum or it could be over a series of payments. In return, they'll invest your money into either a fixed annuity, an indexed annuity, or a variable annuity. They just differ in terms of the interest that you earn as well as the riskiness of those investments. You will start getting an income from that annuity either immediately or you can choose to delay it until to start at a certain age. And you can also choose your term. So it could be for a period of time, or you could choose to have this annuity over your lifetime. Things to consider if you are considering buying an annuity, they're very complex. It's essential that you understand the terms of the annuity. Ask questions of the person, the insurance agent that is selling you the annuity. There are a lot of different types of riders that you can purchase in addition to just a base annuity, which are necessary. Most annuities don't come with an inflation rider, for example. So that annuity won't keep up with inflation. You'd have to add on a rider, which is an additional cost. So make sure you know what you're getting in terms of the annuity that you're considering, and look into the fees that are associated with the different riders that suit you and your circumstances. You'd also, if you choose to surrender your annuity, so if you just choose to back out of it before its term ends, there are significant fees associated with that, so high surrender fees. The goal is to not back out of your annuity. The goal is to keep that for life, at least that's for the insurance company. So be mindful of that. And there's also penalties if you start withdrawing from your annuity too early. So just be mindful of what you're getting into. Ask questions, make sure that you read the small print. That's super essential so that you understand the fees and the complications or the complexities of an annuity.
When might someone benefit from working with a financial advisor like yourself? And what's the difference between an advisor and a fiduciary?
I'll start with differentiating between what a fiduciary is versus a financial advisor. So a fiduciary is somebody who is legally bound to act in your best interests. There's no conflict of interests, and they are typically fee only or fee based. So fiduciaries will not charge you a commission because that's not in your best interest. The financial advisor, on the other hand, is anybody that provides financial advice or potentially sells you a financial product. So that includes an investment advisor, a broker, an insurance agent. So a number of different professionals can wear the hat of an investment advisor, but not all of those financial advisors are fiduciaries. So be aware of that. If you're not a fiduciary, you can charge somebody a commission. That's in your own best interest, not necessarily in your client's best interest. So if you're working with somebody and having them be a fiduciary is important to you, you can ask them if they will handle your relationship in a fiduciary capacity for the entire duration of your relationship. You can have them write that in a contract. You can also look for certain credentials and designations. For example, I'm a certified financial planner, a CFP. I am held to a fiduciary standard. I have to work with my clients, and I want to work with my clients and act in their best interest. Same with the Registered Investment Advisory, an RIA. They are fiduciaries. A certified public accountant, a CPA, they are fiduciaries. So there are designations you can look for to make sure that you are working with a fiduciary. And then to answer Christy's first question, when do you know you're ready to work with a financial advisor? It's a good question because we all believe that we can manage and handle our finances on our own. But if you're finding that you're overwhelmed by your finances, if you feel that you need a plan in retirement and you need advice, that's a good time to reach out to a financial advisor. If you are dealing with a complex situation that involves taxes or estate planning, then that's another opportunity to work with a financial advisor. They can provide some guidance holistically, looking into your entire financial life, and they can also connect you with other professionals. They can connect you with a tax professional, estate planning professionals. So they typically do have a team of resources that they can connect you with. And then lastly, if you are worried about making costly mistakes with your finances, I mean, this is your money that you want to sustain and make last through your retirement. So a financial advisor can really help to identify areas that will help you to continue to maintain your resources financially through retirement.
So one last question. What's the one piece of advice you wish more people would consider when planning their financial future?
I think just to sum it up, I know I did mention this before, but it's really never too late to start. If you just take a look at where you are today, look at your finances, look at your budgets, and just really take that seriously and plan effectively. There are resources out there. If you change your investments to a more a balanced portfolio, that will help you to stretch out your resources that are available. But start today. Don't wait until tomorrow. And that's really going to help you to sustain your finances through retirement.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to Laura B, or Laura Bassett. And as our fiduciary, Mark and I actually had a transaction with her years and years and years ago out in Alpine area. So anyway, Laura, what role does long-term care planning play in protecting one's financial future?
Well, I think, Laura referred to some of those unexpected or unplanned things. We all think we're going to live forever. We all think we're going to live in our home forever. We all think we're going to be healthy, be able to walk, be able to do all the wonderful things that we had dreamed about when we were younger. And I think that it's important that we all have a dose of reality. And I just say that simply. We all have friends, and maybe some of you are even dealing with this now. We all have people we know, whether it was our own family or friends, that things didn't work out the way that they had hoped, and they're not able to stay where they thought they would stay. But I just think it's important that we're planning early enough or thinking about it early enough to anticipate that those decisions are going to have to be made, and they need to be made before it's too late for you to make them for you, right? And I am a fiduciary, so I actually have, and it's a little different than what she was describing, fiduciary standard. I am a fiduciary, and I have that standard too, where I put the needs above my own client. But I am a licensed professional fiduciary, which comes alongside people and hires people like Laura to manage your finances, while I make sure that she's doing what's best for you. I'm overseeing more than that, though. I'm making sure that I'm helping people budget and plan, and if they want to go into a retirement community, that they have the resources to do that, to outlast that. If they do end up wanting to stay home, making sure they have the resources to do that as well, because in many cases that's probably a difficult thing unless you have a very sizable estate or other family members that can help take care of you. So it's just important that you're thinking about all possible outcomes when you're thinking about long-term planning. I think that's the main thing I tell people is, we know what we want to have happen, but let's think about the what ifs. And that's where I kind of try to come alongside my clients and other fiduciaries. I know that that's our goal, is to make sure our clients are taken care of. And some of that is thinking about those long-term options and planning for those.
That's important.
Yeah.
What financial pitfalls do you see most often with older clients?
Again, related to planning, right? It's one is allowing people in their lives to come in, and Laura again alluded to this. Well, you did such a good job. And I get it. We all want to put the needs of our kids and our grandkids and other people we love, but you also have to think about if you're not in a position, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to help your kids and your grandkids, because you're going to then have to focus in on you, or they're going to have to take care of you, which again, it may be the best case scenario. I don't know, many of you maybe are planning to live with your children, but or you're planning on your children taking care of you. I do have 6 children, so I'm hoping one of them comes through. But happy to say they're all out doing their adult thing, and I hope that they don't have to come back and take care of me. But I think that planning while you can, right? That kept coming into my mind while she was talking. Planning while you can. And I say that in the sense of the pitfalls, and this is related not just to finances, but decisions as well, which I see is people not putting things in place while they can. And then it becomes an issue because there may be diminished capacity, or the family starts fighting over what's best for mom and dad, or mom, we want mom here, we want mom there. And then you run into a lot of issues, whereas if it's laid out and you're thinking through what you want to have happen early enough to where you can make those decisions, those are important. And that does tie into your finances too, because you want to make sure that you have, and it may be a fiduciary, and it may be a family member. I have all kinds. Some clients, I'm just their power of attorney for healthcare, right? I'm just there to make sure they go to doctor's appointments. But the family is still, helping with all the finances. Just making sure that you guys have thought through who you want to manage your life if you can't, right? If you can't. And my mom is 88, okay? She just retired last December. So I'm hoping that, mentally I'm still there too at 88, we'll see. But not everybody at 88 is able to still make their decisions for themselves. And so it's just important that you're You're keeping an eye on who do you want by your side when you need it the most. And that relates to finances, decisions, healthcare, all that stuff.
Such a big decision.
Yeah, it is.
So how do emotions and fear around money affect that decision-making in retirement?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest fear that, and maybe you guys can correct me, but I think the biggest fear that we all have is running out of money, right? Running out of resources. I shouldn't say money because it may not be all money, but it is running out of resources and not getting to the end of our life the way we want to see it happen, right? And of course, financial planning comes into that, but we all need to make sure that we have a plan in place. It may not all work out the way we planned, but at least you have people beside you helping you make sure that you want to have a safety net. That's the biggest thing, right? We all have a fear and we all have emotions about our family. So a lot of times I deal with families where, in fact, Rick and I were discussing the case that we had. I had a family where the gentleman did not have a plan. He had a big estate out in Alpine. He had 2 children. They did not get along. They both had their idea of how to spend dad's money while he was alive. And then he passed, and there was no will, and there was no trust. And it was a mess. And that's when they have to bring in somebody like me and pay a lot of money to have it go through the courts. That's what you don't want to have happen, right? Is when the family, and then what happens is, and I saw this happen in my own family with my dad, is things change when someone passes. When money and death are involved, things change and emotions get in the way. So I think it's important that you plan as best you can so that you take that emotion out of it and that your kids and your grandkids or whoever is inheriting your estate or dealing with your life while you're here, they know the rules. They know what's going on. They know what your wishes are. Because I don't know how many of you have multiple children. I do feel like even though I have 6, they would all actually be on the same page because they all have been on the same page their whole life. But you never know, right? You never know how people are going to deal with different things and emotions, and kids have different relationships with their parents. Some are very needy and some are not. And those emotions get in the way as well. So I think it's just, again, plan while you can and communicate as best you can to your loved ones what your wishes are so there are no questions at the end or before the end when you have those.
That's so important. My father passed away with a really bad will, no trust, and he didn't have a whole lot of money, but it brought up a lot of family conflicts we have 5 of us, and we have one sister that had a different idea than the rest. And so I always tell everyone, if you don't have a trust, get one. It's the best gift that you can give those who survive you.
Well, can I add to that though? Because again, relating to my family, I have my dad had there's 5 siblings, and they were all given an equal share, which makes sense, right? For the most part. However, one of my aunts had quit her job when my grandfather got dementia, and she left her teaching job in Northern California, came down to take care, which was, a blessing. And because my grandparents didn't have the foresight to say, you know what, you've sacrificed, maybe we should give you a little extra. Yeah. None of that was spelled out. And when Grandma and Grandpa passed, which was in 6 months of each other, wow, all the fighting started, because then the aunt said, I sacrifice, and everyone said, we appreciate you sacrifice, we want to give you something. And then it became, how much do we give her? How much of our share do we give? It just became, and I saw a family that was spending every Christmas together. They barely talked to each other anymore. And it's just those kinds of things that you, as a person that's maybe passing things on, think about those things. If you have a child that's going to come support you and take care of you, address those issues up front while you can, because it does become a problem. Even if you think you've spelled everything out, be thinking about all those other things that you're taking care of your family to the point where they're not going to have this family division when you're gone. I mean, we can do the best of planning, right? We never know how people are going to react. But the better you can think about what scenario you think will play out, try to make plans for that as best you can. I know it's hard.
It's messy.
It's messy. It can be messy.
So, I don't think I've asked you this question. Can you speak on the emotional side of downsizing or making financial shifts later in life?
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of alluded to it already. We all want to stay in our home. I mean, I live in a beautiful home in Oceanside that my mom's owned since 1978. And my plan, of course, is to live in that home until the day I die. That may not happen, right? And so I think that it's important to just have a dose of reality, right? We all we don't like, many of us, I know I don't like change, but we also have to go, you know what's going to be best to live out the rest of my days and not be stressed, right? And not be sad and not be alone, right? And downsizing can be hard. I mean, I have a client right now, she loves pigs. Okay, I mean, I'm telling you, this woman has a pig collection I've never seen before. And for now, for now, she's from the Midwest, and you know, she was Miss Piggy or something like that. And you know, her and her husband, they have diminished capacity, which is why I'm involved in their lives, making sure their bills are paid and they're taken care of. And they're in their house right now, and we're hoping that they can stay there, but it's kind of getting to the point where we're not sure. And one of her biggest fears of moving into a retirement community is, where am I going to put all my pigs? And this is reality, right? This is reality. And so you have to think through your collections, because we all collect things. Great Seinfeld episode, become a minimalist. That's what my biggest recommendation is. Think about, I guarantee you, none of her children want her pigs. Okay, save a few pigs, get rid of the rest, right? Have your few cherished 10 collector pigs and move on. But honestly, that has a lot to do with downsizing, right? Is, where am I going to put all my stuff? What am I going to do with my prized possessions? And unfortunately, I think I've seen it, because we all, you know, we've had people pass away. The kids come in and go, I don't want any of this stuff. I'll take one thing here, one thing there, and I'm out. So maybe having those conversations with your kids, what is really important in my possessions? Because I'll tell you right now, all 6 of my kids are like, Mom, you can get rid of everything, because we don't need anything. We'll take a picture of it, and then we're good. We'll move on. But obviously, if you have some prized family heirlooms, that's a little different. But I think having conversations with your family and with yourself about what is really important. What is really important? Is having a house full of stuff important? Or is living a fulfilling, simple life that you can live out? Those are important questions to ask yourself. And again, I'm not saying there's a wrong answer or a right answer. I'm just saying those are important conversations to have.
Really important. Rick and I are going through that right now. My husband, Rick, who most of you know in the back, and my real estate partner as well, we're actually going through thinking, okay, should we downsize? Should we take our own advice? Yeah. And Rick has studied a lot about minimalists and downsizing. And it's amazing how much we collect, because I've been going through our cabinets. And I found a pan I didn't even know existed. We don't know how we got it or where. So it's like, if you haven't started, start, because it's important. Also, we are downsizing coaches as well as real estate agents, and we offer free consulting. So if you want us to come and talk to you and kind of help you with that process, let us know. Okay, back to you, Laura. So how do you recommend people talk with their adult children about financial worries or planning?
Oh gosh, it depends, right? Some kids can handle it and some kids can't. However, I think that having family meetings every once in a while, I mean, I know some clients, they're like, you know what, I made changes and I don't care, they don't ever need to know, and they don't have to know. they can find out later, and then I get all the hate. Or whoever, the oldest child that gets named in the trust gets all the angst. I just think it's important that you do as much communication as you think they can handle in a way that you're communicating what your wishes are. It's just important. And I think that even in our day and age, communication is like a lost art, right? We're just texting people, we're not really sitting down face to face with you. I'm a big face to face person, right? So when I meet with my clients, I go and see them because I want them to look me in the eye and see, do I trust you? And can I have that connection? And I think it's important that for those that have children, sit down and communicate. And it's hard. It's like, and what if your kid doesn't want to talk to you or you don't have communication? Then maybe you write them a letter and maybe you send them something saying, hey, just so you know, I had this situation in my own family with my husband, his sister, and my mother-in-law had nothing. I mean, unfortunately, she had ended up in a nursing home with very few assets at the end of her life. And the daughter, who was my husband's sister, was kind of alienated from the family. But we found out later on that she was coming to town and visiting with mom. But unbeknownst to us, she lived in New Mexico. Mom lived in Oceanside. She'd come to town. She didn't tell us because, again, sister and brother weren't talking. And when she passed, the mom had disinherited all the other kids. Again, didn't have anything to really inherit anyways, but had disinherited purposely, which you have to disinherit if you have kids, if you're not going to give them anything. Just side note. You can't just go, no, I'm not going to leave. I'm just going to leave them out. No, you have to say, I have this child and I'm purposely disinheriting. Anyways, she got mad at my husband because he didn't tell her. It's like, well, that's not my job to tell you what mom's will says. It was mom's job. And mom didn't do that. And that caused a lot of problems. And that was not on my husband, it was on my mother-in-law. So I'm just saying, what you don't communicate can cause a lot of problems for your family and relatives when you're gone. The more you can communicate, the better. Again, measured communication. I know you may not want to tell them everything, and I get that. And you don't have to. But you might want to tell them some of it.
So what happens if something unexpected happens to a fiduciary? Is it safer to work with a fiduciary company instead of an individual like yourself, or how does that all work?
Yeah. So, and I get that question a lot. What if something happens to you, Laura, if you're our successor trustee or a power of attorney or whatever? Well, first of all, yes, you can work with companies, but you still have to name a specific person in your documents. It's not like you name Joe Blow Corporation and anybody in that corporation can be your fiduciary. You still have to name specific people, or you have to have something in your trust that specifies if this person is no longer available, I want a fiduciary named as my successor. What I do is I always recommend that people have 3 people minimum as their successor. And if they want a fiduciary to be that successor, which again, kind of offers that unbiased third party, I have a few people that are similar in style to me that I refer them to. So there's always a backup plan. But worst case, there should be something in your trust that determines what happens if all your trustees are not available. Because there could be a scenario where your third trustee, or they can't, or they don't want him, right? Or they can't, they're not around, they've moved, or they're a child and they've passed away, or a best friend and they're gone. There always should be something in your document that gives a way to name another fiduciary or another trustee of some sort. Another thing that I'm just going to throw out here, and this is kind of off topic of what you just asked me, but make sure your trust is current on California law. And something that I just encountered recently was I had a client who had a trust drawn up 10 years ago. They do not have capacity anymore. They've been given 2 doctor's notes, which is usually sufficient, but because their trust did not determine how to determine incapacity. One of the financial institutions will not let the successor, and I'm not the successor, but will not let the successor step in. They want us to go to court and then present that evidence to the court and have the court determine. Now, not every financial institution is like that, but this particular one is being very, they want to cover their you-know-what. They don't want to take responsibility for turning over so I'm just saying, make sure your trusts are up to date. Review them once a year. Not necessarily with an attorney, but you personally look through it. Make sure what it says is what you want it to say. So that's my advice there.
One last question that you're not prepared for.
Okay.
So, only because I've heard you speak on this. So, Laura M. works mostly with higher, wealthier type of people. But something with when people work with you, you can go to her company. Could you explain how that works?
Yeah, oh, you're talking about the minimum, smaller asset. Yeah, so, well, two things. One, some fiduciaries, like myself, but not me, but similar to me, they have a minimum estate, right? So let's say they go, I'm not gonna work with anybody that doesn't have at least a $2 million estate or $3 million estate, whatever that number is. Personally, I don't have a minimum. I don't have a minimum because I know everyone needs help. And maybe it's the pro bono attorney mom that I had that did a lot of pro bono work, but I don't have a problem dealing with a smaller estate. I do feel like in California, usually if you own a home, you have a decent sized estate for the most part. But when you work with a financial institution like Aspirian, a lot of times they have a minimum. They only take a minimum, and I don't remember what that minimum is, but it doesn't really matter because if I already have several clients that actually are under Aspirian as my financial advisors, and because I bring in a new client, like I just have somebody right now that's probably only going to be able to invest about $50,000 to $100,000. And I'm telling you right now, most financial advisors go, I'm not going to touch that because it's just not worth their time, and it may not, there's easier things to do. But because I have this relationship with Aspirian and I have multiple clients, my advisor will take on my $50,000 to $100,000 or a smaller amount. One, they'll take it on and actually help me advise on that. And two, they'll charge me lower fees because I have a group discount, for lack of a better term. I don't remember what else I was going to say, but that's kind of an advantage to working with having several clients under the same umbrella. Now, just so you guys know, as far as like Laura's company, they're housing their stocks and bonds with like a Charles Schwab. They're just advising. They're making sure everything's invested the way it should be. They're not actually selling you a product, right? They're not selling you a stock off in who knows where. They're looking at the market and the overall market and investing with a company like Charles Schwab who holds on to your stock. And they're just the advisors overseeing it. And then I'm overseeing them. So there's always somebody overseeing somebody. And then the state of California oversees me because I'm accountable to the state of California for my license, my education, and every single client I have to report to them what assets I'm actually managing in the state of California. So, I don't know if that answered that question, but.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you going into that detail. So Marta and I have known each other a very long time, and she's actually helping Rick and I. We're trying to decide, do we get a reverse mortgage? Do we use a reverse mortgage to buy a home? And she's just a wealth of knowledge, so I'm really happy to have you here today. And you're going to start off with a story, right?
Yes. Hello, and there's a reason why I'm last, and that's because reverse mortgages can be very exciting. And after these two knowledgeable ladies, I just hope I live up to the part. So I have a 1 minute story, excuse me. It's called the Reverse Mortgage Program, a 1 minute story. Before we dive in though, I want to share a little history about that most people don't know. The Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, or HECM, was signed into law in 1987 under President Ronald Reagan. It was created for one simple reason, to help seniors who were what we call house rich but cash poor. They were folks who had worked hard, paid off most of all of their home, but now lived on fixed incomes that just didn't stretch far enough for everyday expenses, medical bills, and repairs. The goal was to give older homeowners a safe, federally insured way to unlock part of their home equity without selling, without moving, without taking on monthly mortgage payments. It was about financial security, dignity, and the ability to age in place. At 35 years later, that's still the heart of the program. Now, I know many of you have heard one of the biggest misconceptions out there, and that is that if you get a reverse mortgage, which is just a loan on your house, the bank owns your home. That's simply not true. You keep full ownership of your home, you remain on title, you are in charge, you can move out anytime you wish without any penalty, and the house is yours permanently until you decide to move away or pass away. So it's your home, your rules, with no monthly mandatory payments. One of the things that Christy and Rick and I have talked about is a new program that started in 2009, and that is the option of buying a house with a reverse mortgage. This allows you to buy a primary residence and finance it with the reverse in one single transaction, instead of getting a traditional mortgage first and then having to refinance and spend more money on a reverse. That's opened the door for many people to downsize, relocate, or move closer to family without taking on a monthly mortgage payment. So today, my job is to answer your questions, clear up some more misconceptions, and show you how this program can be a powerful tool to help you stay comfortable and secure in your retirement.
So when might a reverse mortgage make sense for someone in retirement?
There's another reason why I have notes, because we're on a time frame. When might somebody want a reverse mortgage? When they're on a fixed income and they're just needing a little bit more breathing room, when they want to pay off their existing mortgage, or if they'd like to do home improvements, such as for healthcare needs, or simply have a safety cushion for the future. It's not just when you're broke that you might need a reverse loan. Many of my clients are a little rough, maybe need a little income. Many of my clients are financially okay. They just want to access some equity from their home on a tax-free basis to do something else with it.
So what's some common misconception people have about reverse mortgages?
Okay, well, the very first misconception again is that the bank owns your home. We don't want your home. We just want to charge you interest. And then when you pass away or move away, we will collect what you owe. There is, again, no penalty or fee or restriction for a time that you have to stay in your home or before you sell it. Again, the loan will vest your home in your name or in your trust. So something important to know is that if you do pass away unexpectedly, or if, again, hopefully you have a trust, you've talked to one of these ladies, your estate can take up to 1 year to decide what they want to do with your home. Do they want to refinance it, pay off your debt and keep the house, or do they want to sell it? And by keeping in touch with the lender, they can take up to 1 year and not make monthly mortgage payments on it.
I didn't know it was a year.
Yes, initially it's 4 months, but if you keep in touch with the lender, again, we want you to sell that house with Chrissy. We will wait. They have to remember, if your family does decide to wait, we are charging interest, so they'll have less to cash in on later on.
Thank you. So how can someone in their 70s or 80s realistically adjust their financial plan if they're worried about running out of money?
But that is my favorite question, and that's where both Lauras come in. The key is to protect your assets before it's too late, so you can maintain your lifestyle. You can do this by eliminating debt or refinancing costly loans, and for looking for ways to do away with recurring bills like insurance and utilities. For many, as we've mentioned, the biggest untapped asset is your home. A reverse mortgage can give you a part of that equity into cash or monthly income stream without having to sell your home. And by the way, you can stay in your home till age 120 if you live that long. I won't.
So how does housing impact long-term financial security, especially for older adults who want to stay in their current home and don't see downsizing as the right fit?
Okay, another favorite question. I have a client named Paul, which I'll tell you about. His family wanted him to go into a nursing center, and he just really did not want that. He wanted to stay in his house where he had lived for 41 years. So by refinancing into a reverse mortgage, he was able to get cash out and again, not have any mandatory monthly mortgage payments. He was able to stay in the comfort of his home, the home that he loved and lived in and was familiar with, and avoid the stress and the hassle and the anxiety of having to move. So again, the loan was initially created for seniors to age in place, and when we think of it for the long term, it appears to be working very well for people over age 55.
So that's a good way to finance having like in-home nursing care if you didn't want to go to a senior community.
Absolutely, and many of us don't. I know that is my thing. I do not want to go. I don't want my daughter to wheel me over to the window and in a wheelchair and just leave me there. And I think my daughter might do that. That's not going to happen. You haven't met her. She's in the Army and she's in Austin, Texas. So yes, you can refinance your home, you can stay age in place, perhaps you can have someone come help you daily or weekly or whatever. You can sleep better, you can have peace of mind and stay in the place that you love.
So I think a lot of people know about a reverse mortgage, but they don't all know that you can, if you're looking to downsize it to something smaller, that you can actually use a reverse mortgage to buy that house. Can you explain that?
Yes, and we're seeing more and more of that, especially here in the area where many of us have such big two-story houses. This one here has 6 children. I imagine that's a big house, okay? And as we age, we can't handle the stairs. We don't want to handle the stairs. We might need bigger doorways for our wheelchairs or better bathrooms, etc. So one of the ways to be a homeowner and stay happy and not go into a nursing center is to sell your home with Christy and Rick and then use the proceeds from that house as a down payment for a new house with a reverse mortgage. So now I will say it has to be a substantial down payment, about 50%. So you put down about 50%, we finance the rest, and no more monthly mortgage payments for you as long as the home is owner occupied and you pay property taxes and insurance.
Oh, awesome. Did we have a good panel? So we're going to do question and answers now. So I'm going to have a couple, Chris and Karen, come up. We're going to give up 2 mics and we'll share one here. So come here up here to get the mics. And then, so I'm sure that you guys have questions. Please keep it to just one question. Be concise. Don't go into a huge long story of it. And let us know who you want to direct it to. Chris, there's one person here. Karen, here's the mic.
Hello, this is a question for Laura.
Which Laura? B or M?
B or M.
I'm sorry. Laura Baxter. How is your fee system structured?
Yes, that's a good question. So every fiduciary, by the way, has got to provide you with a fee schedule the first time you meet with them. So if you're meeting with a fiduciary, make sure they are telling you what they charge. That same goes with attorneys, by the way. They are supposed to tell you up front how much they charge. So basically the way that my fee structure works is for final trust administration, which is, again, once you've passed away, it's a 1% of the gross estate. If I have to step in while I'm acting as a power of attorney or a trustee while you're still alive, I charge an hourly rate, which is $150 an hour right now in 2025.
I have a question for Marta with the reverse mortgage. Are there, I guess I'm understanding that there's a lump sum of money then that comes, is there tax on that money?
Excellent question.
Could you repeat it?
Yes, she asked if when you take money out of a reverse mortgage, it's taxable. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's tax-free because it's not earned income, it's passive income, home equity. Correct, Laura? So you can take that in a lump sum, you can do a line of credit, or you can have monthly payments based on how much money you qualify for. You can also change those options along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually a comment, but I want to check it out with all three of you because I may be wrong about some of this. I'm under the impression that one can engage now a fiduciary who will, after you die, be your trustee of your trust or executor of your will, etc., and be paid out of the estate a reasonable fee for their services. Is that correct?
Well, so if I'm named in the document as your successor trustee and you become incapacitated,
Mhm.
so then of course I would step in as you're still alive and I would charge that hourly rate. The compensation is later. The 1% is the trust administration of the final trust administration,
Well,
right?
that's what I was referring
Yeah.
to, because my wife and I have no kids, and we've named a perpetual fiduciary as our successor trustee
Sure.
once we die. Because it seems to me, I've heard that it's a lot of work. Someone dies to take care of the trust and the will. I would not want to wish that on anybody that I like. We don't have kids. I wouldn't want to wish it on one of my kids if I did have one, and I wouldn't want to wish it on any of our friends, some of whom may be gone by the time we die anyway.
Well, and that's a good point, and that's one of the reasons why that keeps me employed. It is a full-time job. It's more than just, oh, you just go to the bank and give out the money. No, there's usually real estate involved, right? Where you need to hire an agent and get the house ready and sell it. There's contents of the house that may need to go to specific people or do an estate sale, whatever the desires of the person was. There's taxes, there's final personal tax returns, there's potentially estate tax returns depending on the size of the estate. There's a lot of factors that people don't realize that go into it. So that's where the 1% is earned. Now, some trustees or fiduciaries and trustees, they typically in a trust document says reasonable compensation. So some trustees, depending on the size of the estate, will charge a higher percent. Some will charge a lower percent if it's a huge estate. I've just stayed with the one because that's what my mom did. And she's an awesome person, so I just kind of followed in her footsteps. But the 1%, the good news is it's a percent. It's not a flat, I'm gonna charge you 20 grand no matter what, and that's all you have left. And it goes to me instead of your heirs. But yeah, I do a lot of work, even not as a trustee, I do a lot of power of attorney work, right? So let's say somebody has a trust in place and they have somebody, like their best friend is gonna be their trustee, which is fine. Or they're incapacitated and they don't have the ability to change, but the courts can assign me to a case. I also act as a sub-trustee, so if you have a trust and you've left your some of your estate maybe to a minor or somebody that hasn't reached a certain age, grandchildren or children that aren't 35 yet, or 25 or whatever the age you deem, so their money has to be set up in trust. Your trustee can be that trustee for them too, or you can name a separate trustee for that sub-trust, or you have a child or a grandchild that is on special public benefits and has special needs, and they cannot inherit all the money you have for them, because if they did, they would lose their public benefits and their insurance, which is really the bigger thing. So you set up what is called a special needs trust. I can act as a trustee for a special needs trust, which is kind of a specialty area as well. I hope that, I know I went a little more, but I can act now or later, depending on the circumstances.
Okay, hi, this question is for Marta. Regarding if you sell your house and then you want to do a reverse mortgage for the next one, do you have to pay taxes on the proceeds of selling for your own house, or is there a way to avoid that?
Christy, this is a question for Christy, actually. Would you answer that one?
Yeah, because you're selling your home, so, and you have the 250 or 500 tax exclusion and any improvements, but then the equity on that will be taxed. So you'd have to work with your CPA and find out how much that is.
Thank you.
Yeah, depending upon your tax bracket. Okay, please.
I remembered my question. I got,
Is this two?
sorry? Oh, it's regarding an annuity, so yes. I had gotten an annuity through a certified financial planner at San Diego County Credit Union. And I guess I'm still in the period where I can get out of it, so it's very recent. But it was considered, I mean, and I always was, like, against annuities from everything that I had heard, but he gave me one that, he told me about this one that is more like a CD, that he said it's just like the most risk-free there is, and, you invest money in it and leave it there for, 3 to 5 years, and I took 5. And, and you make better interest than you would if it were left in CDs. And he said that there are no fees. That, the reason I'm wondering is that, I know that he's at the San Diego Credit Union, I guess he gets paid by them for, certain services, and so, but is that a thing, that there really are no fees?
I mean, typically with an annuity, no, that's not usually a thing. There usually are fees involved. I'd have to look at your annuity documents, for example, if I was going to give any further advice or about that. There's so many annuities out there, and there might be products that I'm unfamiliar with.
He said a lot of them do have fees because they have different riders, and I know that you were talking about that, for different things, but this is, I guess, just really simple. I put my money in there, 5 years later, I get it out, and there's nothing that happens other than the interest compounds. And, I asked him that specific question.
It was good that you asked him and that you are familiar that annuities do come with fees. So it sounds reassuring that you're not getting charged fees for that.
And I thought I saw something in the booklet that it was called a theme, the annuity.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this short
Oh.
because, sorry, you can go and
Okay.
talk to her afterwards,
okay.
okay? So, let's give the panel a hand, and I have a couple more.